Kevin's car tore through the streets like a bullet seeking its target. His knuckles were white against the steering wheel. His jaw clenched so tightly that his teeth ached. The speedometer climbed past numbers that would have terrified Kevin on any other day. But tonight, he did not care. His phone sat on the passenger side, screen dark now but still warm from the video he had watched over 20 times. Each viewing had been like a fresh blade across his chest. Each replay had carved new wounds in places he did not know could bleed. His house appeared before him sooner than expected. Their house, the Victorian-style mansion they had renovated together 3 years ago. His wife had picked the color of every wall. He had approved every choice because her smile had been worth more than any opinion he might have held. Now the sight of it made him want to vomit. He parked crookedly in the driveway and killed the engine. For a long moment, Kevin just sat there, staring at the soft light glowing from the master bedroom window on the second floor. Surely she was still awake. Of course, she was. It was only 11 at night, and his wife had always been a night owl. His wife. The word tasted like ash in his mouth. Kevin grabbed his phone and stepped out of the car. His legs felt foreign beneath him, like borrowed limbs that did not quite fit. The walk to the front door seemed to stretch for miles. When he finally reached it, he stood frozen with his hand on the handle. What was he going to say? What words existed for a moment like this? He pushed the door open anyway. The house greeted him with familiar warmth. The soft jazz playing from the living room speakers and the elegant order his wife had maintained in every corner. All of these things felt like a lie now. Every beautiful detail was just another layer of deception. Kevin! His wife's voice floated down the stairs, light and concerned. You are back early. I thought you were having dinner with the distributors tonight. He said nothing. His footsteps were heavy on the marble floor as he walked toward the staircase. Each step upward felt like climbing towards his own execution. Or perhaps hers. He wasn't sure anymore. She appeared at the top of the stairs before he even reached them, wrapped in a silk robe he had bought for her for their 9th anniversary. Her hair was loose around her shoulders, dark and flowing like it had been on the day he fell in love with her. Tracy. That was his wife's name. She had always carried herself like royalty, graceful, poised, and untouchable. He had spent 10 years worshipping her, never questioning whether she deserved his devotion or not. Kevin, what's wrong? She started descending the stairs, her face shifting into an expression of concern that he now recognized as rehearsed. You look terrible, my darling. Did something happen? She asked. Kevin stopped at the bottom of the stairs and looked up at her. Then he said, Where is he? The question hung in the air between them like a sharp blade suspended mid-drop. Tracy's steps faltered, and just for a moment enough for him to see the flash of something dark behind her eyes before she recovered. Where is who? Baby, you are scaring me. What is going on? She said. She was good, Kevin admitted. He had to give her that. Her voice remained steady. Her face arranged itself into perfect confusion. Her body language projected nothing but innocent concern. If Kevin hadn't seen the video with his own eyes, he might have believed her. But he had seen it. He had watched her wrapped in another man's hand, laughing in a way she hadn't laughed with him for years. He had listened to her speak words of love to someone whose face the camera never captured. He had seen her older than a child, their supposedly dead son, with a tenderness that proved everything he believed about her was a carefully constructed fantasy. Don't. Kevin's voice came out strangled. Don't lie to me anymore. He raised his phone and pressed play on the video. Tracy's voice filled the space between them, mixed with the voice of a man whose identity remained hidden. The sounds of a life she had built in a secret, far away from the husband who had given her everything. Tracy's face went pale. Not a pale of embarrassment or even fear. It was a pale of someone watching their entire world collapse in real time. Someone who had spent years building an elaborate house of cards and was now watching them scatter in the wind. Kevin, don't say my name. Kevin threw the phone onto the couch beside him, unable to look at the screen anymore. Don't you dare say my name like you have any right to it. Tracy came down the remaining stairs slowly, her hands raised as if approaching a wild animal. Please, let me explain. It is not what you think. Now, what do I think? Kevin laughed, but the sound was bitter and broken. I think my wife has been lying to me for years. I think your son, not mine, is alive somewhere with a female blackmailer, while I cried at his empty grave every year on his birthday. I think the woman I trusted with my entire heart had been playing me for a fool since before I even knew what game we were in. His voice cracked on the last sentence. Tracy's composure finally shattered. Tears began streaming down her face as she reached out to touch him. Kevin, please, I wanted to tell you so many times. Kevin stepped back from Tracy's touch like she was made of poison. Don't touch me. The words came out harder than he intended, harder than he knew he was capable of making them. He had never spoken to her this way, not in all their years together. He had always been gentle with her, always patient, always understanding. But look where that had gotten him. How long? He demanded. How long has this been going on? Tracy's face crumpled as she whispered, Kevin. But Kevin screamed at her again. How long? His shout echoed through the house. And somewhere upstairs, he had the door open. Footsteps. His daughter must have been wakened by the noise. Tracy heard it too. Please, she whispered urgently. Not in front of her, please. Whatever you want to do to me, Kevin, whatever punishment you want to give me, I will accept it all. But please, not in front of our daughter. Kevin's jaw tightened. Even now, even in this moment of total devastation, she knew exactly which button to press. She knew that no matter how angry he became, no matter how deeply she had hurt him, he would never willingly damage their daughter. Daddy! The small voice came from the top of the stairs. Kevin looked up to see Michelle standing there in her pink pajamas, rubbing her eyes sleepily. At 10 years old, she had her mother's beauty and her father's stubborn chin. She was the only good thing to come out of this marriage, the only thing he would never regret. Go back to bed, sweetheart. He forced a stone into something resembling calm and said again, Mommy and Daddy are just talking. Michelle's eyes moved between her parents. She was too perceptive.
Dad,
This child,
Mom,
she always
are
had been.
you fighting?
She could read the tension in a room before most adults could sense it. Are you fighting? She asked. No, baby. Tracy moved toward the tears quickly, wiping her face and saying, It's just a grown-up discussion. Go back to sleep. I will come tuck you in again in a few minutes. Michelle didn't move immediately. She stared at her father with those large, intelligent eyes that seemed to see straight through every mask he tried to wear. Then she nodded slowly and disappeared down the hallway. Kevin waited until he heard her bedroom door close before turning back to his wife. I want answers, he said quietly. All the fire drained from his voice now that his daughter was within earshot. And I want the truth, the complete truth. You owe me that much. Tracy nodded slowly, tears still falling down her face. Can we at least sit down? Kevin did not want to sit anywhere near Tracy. He didn't even want to be in the same house, the same city, the same planet with her. But his legs were shaking, and if he did not sit soon, he was going to collapse right there in the foyer. So they moved to the living room in silence. Kevin sat on one end of their long sectional sofa, while Tracy sat on the other, as far away from him as the furniture allowed. The distance between them had never felt more appropriate. Start from the beginning, Kevin said, and don't leave anything out. Tracy was quiet for a long time after he spoke. Her hands were clasped in her lap, her head bowed, her shoulders trembling silently with suppressed sobs. Kevin waited without speaking. He had spent 10 years giving her grace, 10 years filling silences with reassurances and comfort. But tonight, she would have to fill the silence herself. When Tracy finally looked up, her eyes were red and swollen, but her voice was steady. It started when you traveled for your master's degree. The words hit Kevin like a physical blow. He had braced himself for a confession of weakness, a moment of temptation, perhaps a brief affair that spiraled out of control. He had not braced himself for this. Almost 2 years? He asked. Tracy nodded miserably. I was longing for you, Kevin. After I and Michelle visited you twice in London, you decided to stay back for another course you had just discovered. Do you remember? Kevin remembered. He had been in London studying for the past 1 year when they visited. Then after, he had needed to stay for some more time. It had been the longest months of his life. He had called them every night, sent emails when the phone lines failed, and counted down to the days until he could see them again. There was a man, Tracy continued, her voice barely above a whisper. He was very persuasive. Kevin's hands clenched into fists at his sides. He started pursuing me shortly after you left, Kevin. At first, I refused, but he was persistent. And then the devil preyed on my weakness. I was stupid and lonely, she finished. Lonely? Kevin's voice cracked on the word. I called you every night, every single night, Tracy. I know, Tracy said as she closed her eyes in shame. I know you did, and I know nothing I say can excuse what I did. But I need you to understand the state I was in. I had my hands full with Michelle. My father had just been diagnosed with diabetes. My mother was falling apart trying to take care of him. And my younger brother was getting into trouble at school. I was overwhelmed, Kevin. And you were so far away. So you mean you slept with another man because you were stressed? Kevin's voice came out very hard. Tracy flinched as if he had struck her. Kevin, please. I made a mistake. I was weak and I was afraid. I let him convince me that you would never find out. That it did not have to mean anything. That it could just be a moment of comfort in a difficult time. A moment? Kevin asked and laughed bitterly. You had a child, Tracy. That's more than a moment. Tracy's face crumpled again. I did not know I was pregnant until after you came back. By then, I had ended things with him. I had convinced myself that I could just pretend it never happened. That I could be a good wife to you and make up for what I had done. But you could not hide a pregnancy, Tracy, Kevin argued. No, Tracy shook her head. I could not. So I told you I was pregnant, and you were so happy, Kevin. So incredibly happy. You picked me up and spun me around and told everyone you knew that you were going to be a father for the second time. How could I tell you the truth after that? How could I destroy your joy with my shame? Kevin felt the bile rising in his throat. He remembered that day vividly. He remembered the way his heart had swelled with pride and love and anticipation. He had called his brother first, then his best friend, then practically everyone in his phone's contact list. He had been the happiest man alive, but it was all based on a lie. So you just decided to deceive me forever? He asked. I didn't plan that far ahead, Kevin. I was taking it one day at a time, trying to figure out what to do. I keep telling myself I will find the right moment to tell you. But then, weeks turned into months and suddenly felt impossible, Tracy replied him. Kevin gave a long sigh, shook his head and asked, And when the baby was born, looking nothing like me, I guess you were still scared too. Tracy's breath hitched as she replied him again. He looked enough like me that no one questioned it. Lot of babies of course looked like their mothers, and you were so in love with him from the moment he was born. You held him like he was the most precious thing in the world. Because I thought he was my son, Kevin's voice rose despite his intention to stay calm as he interrupted her. He forced himself to lower his voice again, conscious of Michelle sleeping upstairs. I thought he was mine, Tracy. Tracy clasped her hand in front of her as she whispered, I know you did. And watching you love him so completely while knowing the truth, it was the worst punishment I could have given myself. Every moment of joy you shared with him was another knife in my heart. Don't. Kevin's voice went cold. Don't make yourself the victim here, Tracy. You don't get to claim suffering after what you did. Tracy nodded quickly. You're right, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to excuse anything. I'm just trying to tell you the truth like you asked. Kevin took a deep breath and forced himself to continue. Fine. So you had a baby. I thought it was mine. Then what? The blackmailer's video showed him alive. But I buried my son. I watched them put a tiny coffin in the ground. I visit that grave every year. The memories were suddenly overwhelming. He remembered the day they had lost him. That is, the day he had been told they lost him. Michael had only been a month old. Tracy had told Kevin that she had found Michael blue and unresponsive in his crib one morning. The doctors called it sudden infant death syndrome. There had been an autopsy, a funeral, months of grief and counseling. Or at least that was what he had believed. That grave is empty, Kevin, Tracy whispered. Kevin stared at Tracy in shock as she continued speaking. The coffin was buried. There was nothing in it but sandbags. The room seemed to tilt around Kevin. He grabbed the arm of the sofa to steady himself. What? His real father came back, Kevin. He had found out about the baby. He wanted to claim him privately. I refused at first, but he threatened to tell you everything if I did not let him have a son, Tracy whispered once again. Kevin's mind was reeling. Then he said, So you faked his death. You made me believe my son died so your affair would not be discovered. I had no choice, Kevin. His father was threatening everything. Our marriage, your reputation, your business. You had just secured that major investment for the vineyard. A scandal would have ruined you. Oh, so you now decided to ruin me in a different way instead, Tracy? I thought I was protecting you, Tracy's voice cracked. I thought if you believed it was gone, you could grieve and move on. You could build a new life without ever knowing the truth. It was the only way I could think of to make everything work. How? Kevin demanded. How did you even pull something like this off? Okay, Kevin, Tracy said. There was a body. There was a hospital. There were doctors and nurses. I and his father I and his father planned it all. We paid a lot of money to bribe everyone involved. The coroner, the funeral home, certain staff at the hospital. It cost a fortune, but he was willing to pay to get his son. Kevin felt physically ill. The level of deception, the elaborate web of lies and bribes, the sheer magnitude of what she was describing, it was beyond anything he could have imagined. And where is this man now? He asked. Tracy's face twisted with fresh pain as she struggled to supply the answer to her husband's questions. Kevin watched as she appeared to choke. His face momentarily flickered with concern. Then he remembered what she had done, and so he barked at her. Don't pretend here, Tracy. Don't pretend. Where is Michael's father? Why is a woman blackmailing me for money? Why is she asking me for 20 million naira to avoid a scandal? Why, Tracy? Why? And as Tracy struggled to answer him, she took a step back, hit a stool, and tripped heavily. And then she fell down, all the way down hard. Very hard. Thank you guys for listening to the second part of the story, My Wife Cheated on Me and Had a Secret Son. Please watch out for the next part. Thank you so much. Bye.